What is up, everybody? I'm NoLuxGiven, and today is the release day for Marvel Snap. The game is now officially released. You can download it in the Play Store or the App Store on iPhone and Android. It is now officially released worldwide on both platforms. So to celebrate, I wanted to put out a fun Marvel Snap video, and I'm just going to showcase a deck that I think is fun. This isn't necessarily a new player friendly deck. You won't be able to play this one right away, but this deck has some really cool cards and cool synergies that I think really speak to a lot of what Marvel Snap is about. And one thing that I've always thought that's kind of cool with Marvel Snap, you are playing these 12 card deck lists, and so it's about how much synergies and overlapping combos you can fit in just those 12 cards. So this is a deck called Ongoing Destruction posted by @PancakeTime on Twitter. I thought this was really cool and I wanted to check it out. So I've played some games, those are going to be coming up next, but I'm just going to go over some of the pieces in the deck for those of you that might not be familiar, but feel free to skip ahead if you already know what all the cards do, just to get into the games and see this deck in action. It is going to be primarily a destroyer deck, which is a really powerful card, 6 energy, 16 power, at the cost of destroying your other cards when you play it, which is a pretty big trade-off. So the cards that we are going to be using that synergize with that are going to be trying to counteract that ability as much as possible. And the main trio of destroyer cards that you typically see are going to be Armor, which protects your other cards from being destroyed at that location, Professor X, which locks down the location, which also means that they can't be destroyed. They can't be added, removed, you can't move cards in or out, and any destroy effects will not work. So that's going to work similarly to Armor. And then you also have Cosmo, which ongoing cancels out all on-reveal abilities that would otherwise happen at this location. Cosmo works a little bit different than the other two. You want to play your destroyer in your Cosmo location, whereas Armor and Professor X are just going to protect their location regardless. So Cosmo is rounding out kind of the trio of cards that work really, really well with destroyer. But what this deck also adds, and I've got the deck list on the side of the screen here as well. I know you can't quite see the top of all the cards up here, but you can see them over on the side. We're going to be playing with Electro, which is on reveal, +1 max energy, but then it has a drawback of ongoing. You can only play 1 card per turn. And part of the idea behind this deck is to play Electro so that way you can play Destroyer a turn earlier. You get to play your Destroyer on turn 5, you get to blow up your Electro, and then on turn 6 you can still make use of that extra energy while being allowed to play 2 cards. So you could play something like Iron Man plus a 2-cost card, or a 2-cost or 3-cost card plus Warpath. Those are going to be the common plays that the deck has. The other thing that this deck is doing is making use of the fact that Professor X, Cosmo, and Armor, which are 3 cards that work really well with Destroyer, all have ongoing abilities, which means that you can pump them up with Spectrum. On reveal, give your ongoing cards +2 power. So that is kind of making use of the existing synergies with Destroyer. We also have Colossus, which is a sometimes include in Destroyer lists, but this is another card that is going to have synergies with both aspects of the deck, both being a card that Destroyer won't destroy and having an ongoing ability that Spectrum can pump up. Electro is also going to have an ongoing ability. It's a drawback, it's not one that you want to have, but that still means that we can pump it up with Spectrum. Same thing with Lizard, it's got a drawback ability, but we're just playing it as a cheap ongoing card to fill out the curve. And then we also have Ant-Man and Mojo, two other ongoing cards, again, just to kind of fill out the curve for the early game and help you battle for those pivotal locations. That's basically it. That's the deck. I didn't show off Warpath, I guess. Warpath also fills out the curve by being a 4-cost character and says if any of your locations are empty, +4 power. Now, that makes Warpath kind of a tricky card to play. There's some really interesting things that you might have to do with Warpath, but it's a pretty typical card in a lot of destroyer lists as well, because when you destroy everything, then you have 2 empty locations. So obviously you're trying to protect one of those locations with armor plus Warpath or Warpath plus Professor X, and then play destroyer and blow up the stuff at the other 3rd location so that Warpath can get that +5 power bonus, or +4 power bonus, sorry. So that is also a really synergistic card with Destroyer that of course also has an ongoing ability that you can get some additional mileage out of with Spectrum. That's basically the deck. I just threw it together after seeing it on Twitter and had a lot of fun over the course of a few games. So I'll share those with you guys right now. Feel free to subscribe if you like the content, and let me know what type of content you guys want to see in the future. Enjoy. So this is going to be my very first game actually ever playing the deck, but it really looked cool. I've been playing a lot with Destroyer recently since unlocking it, and I've been trying to think of some ways to innovate on the deck list. And so when I saw this one on Twitter, I thought I had to give it a shot. And I think we'll have a pretty decent shot this game. We can play pretty hard for Kylan, or we could play hard for Baxter Building and win Kylan off the back of Baxter Building. That's interesting. I mean, Mojo is certainly going to go well in the Baxter Building, as will Cosmo. I could throw Warpath into Kylan, but for right now, let's just throw Mojo into the Baxter Building, since we know that's not going to do anything at this location. And then looks like my opponent is playing that Destroyer deck. Like I said, that is a pretty popular deck right now, or I haven't said that yet, but I was playing it myself. So that implies that there is some power there. And this turn we've got some options. We can play the Electro. We don't really have to worry about playing Cosmo as much because my opponent played an armor for us. So maybe we could play Electro and see how that aspect of the deck works out, the innovative aspect of the deck. Looks like both of us are going to be battling for the Baxter Building. I might be giving up Kylan here. And we are going to see 3 new cards. So we do find the Destroyer. We'll be able to play our Destroyer 1 turn earlier than our opponent. And being able to play Iron Man this turn, Destroyer next turn, it really does feel like we're going to be able to battle and win the Baxter Building. So maybe... no, I kind of do have to play to the Baxter Building this turn. I either have to play Colossus Armor, and I could play Armor in a different area, though I kind of do have to play something in Baxter Building because I'm going to be playing Destroyer next turn. So one other thing that I could do is I could play Destroyer in a Tillon, and that would allow me to still play for Baxter Building with Mojo, but then maybe next turn I just drop a bunch of 3-cost characters and can then win a Tillon against my opponent. I think this is going to be strong, and I don't think they're going to be expecting this turn 5 Destroyer. I don't think they saw the tweet. So I think this will be a nice little surprise here. We could get a little bit surprised if they play a Professor X in the center, which could certainly be possible. But no, they're going to play an Iron Man of their own. So they are going to have a really good shot to win that Baxter Building as well. And we've got to figure out exactly how we are doing this thing. Well, we win a Tillon just by playing one card here. But is playing these two cards... Okay, my opponent is just going to retreat. So that was like the other aspect of it. If they didn't have Destroyer, which it seems like they didn't, then they are just positioned to retreat regardless there. But let's say we play Armor Colossus here. That's 6 plus 8. I mean, they would have us in the Baxter building. So that was actually going to be tough to compete for. I think we would have wound up retreating that game as well. But my opponent didn't have Destroyer, so we won just because of that. And that is part of the strength of the deck, too, is just the consistency from playing both Destroyer and Spectrum, and then having more powerful cards to draw on that final turn. So, all worked out. Alright, let's see how this deck works for another game here. And we are going to see a nice little curve out start with Ant-Man and Mojo. And we've got Sinister London as the first location. Well, I don't think I like Sinister London enough that I want to Ant-Man there. Though I am somewhat tempted by the idea of going Professor X on turn, potentially even turn 4. Go Ant-Man, Mojo, Electro, Professor X. That might just be enough to win the game. Mojo, Professor, kind of a nombo. I'm going to just play Ant-Man open lane for now. Let's just go ahead and do that. And my opponent has no turn 1 play. That's pretty good for us. We're going to get Superflow, so kind of glad that I didn't play into Sinister London. That's going to give us basically an Electro for free, but I'm not going to not play into Sinister London forever, so I am going to just go ahead, play into it this turn. If it lands in Superflow, it lands in Superflow. Let's see what my opponent has in store. No, that's going to land over in the 3rd location. Same for my opponent. So both of us getting access to 4 energy this turn. And Elysium is the final location. Wow. Okay. Well, here's where things can go kind of crazy. Because like I said, Professor X in Sinister London feels kind of powerful. However, one other thing that seems powerful in Sinister London is both Iron Man and Spectrum. I feel like both of those are really, really strong. And right now my opponent has priority just by a little bit, but I think I'm going to Iron Man and Snap. I like a lot of what we're drawing into here, a lot of what we got going on. Maybe we lose some Superflow action next turn, but I feel like the Professor is just going to give us a lot of options. Opponent going to snap back. So we got a fun one here. This is a super powered game with Sinister London, Superflow, and Elysium. My opponent playing some type of Destroy deck. But so are we. Alright, they're going to play Dr. Octopus into Sinister London and make us dump the rest of our hand, which is going to be Colossus and Professor X. So we're not going to get to double Spectrum, but we are going to win Sinister London, and then we are going to have the Spectrum pump everything else up. And then we're going to have Iron Man hopefully pop over into Elysium, because that'll be really tough for my opponent to beat. Awkwardly, the Iron Man did not get the bonuses from Spectrum, but this is still a really, really strong lane. And now if we do something like drop Cosmo here, I feel like that's really strong. That's going to really make it tough for my opponent to win this lane. They're going to have to play 2 more things, in which case our Mojo becomes active, because we're going to take out their Destroy effect. So I think we are going to see a concession from my opponent when we blank their Destruction this turn. Cosmo taking out their Carnage should be enough to do it. Kind of knew that was going to happen. Cosmo also takes out the Enchantress, so we cannot be stopped here, and now we are going to see a concession from my opponent. We weren't going to play Destroyer that game, funny enough. We did have a Professor X protecting us in Sinister London, but we also just had 2 full lanes that we were winning in. So Destroyer was going to stay in our hand on that one, and that one definitely showed some of the power of Spectrum. I mean, let's see. Spectrum gave us 12 power at this location and 8 power at this location. So without Spectrum, we still win here, and we still win here. Didn't really wind up mattering too much. So really just a strong game for Iron Man, I want to say, and also I think kind of the disruptive power of Cosmo, also looking quite strong in that one. Alright, let's see if we can find another win with this ongoing destruction deck. I think it's pretty cool. Let me know what you think about it, and also let me know if there's any decks that you guys want to see me play. I think this is the best way for me to try to make Marvel Snap content, is to just like take suggestions for what you guys want to see. I basically have a full collection just from playing every day at this point. So I can build most decks, and I know that there's still a request for me to play a Patriot deck. If you want to leave a list that you want to see me play, or just say a card in particular, I'll honor either of those requests. So whatever you would like to do. Some interesting locations to start off with. Looks like potentially a Cerebro deck for my opponent here. So how do we want to handle this? Well, somewhat awkward that we don't have anything to do yet with Destroyer. Like, I guess next turn we could play Colossus. Destroyer is going to kill the Ninja, but I think we do just run out Destroyer, and then on the final turn try to go like Iron Man in the Colossus location plus one other cheap card. I feel like this could be reasonable, and then we're going to win in Necrotia with the Destroyer. This is a little bit awkward. Realizing this, what I should have done is played my armor in the same location that I play, I'm sorry, I'm saying the same thing, the wrong thing. Should have played Electro in the same location as Ninja. So that way I could blow up both of these, and then I could armor to protect the lizard. Feel like I do this. Oh, I can only play one card here anyways? Okay. I guess this actually isn't that bad, considering I can only play one card. I'll just play Colossus in Necrotia for now, and then I'm going to play a Destroyer into the Storm location. A little bit awkward. On the final turn, I only have Iron Man plus armor, which doesn't seem super impressive. The only other play would be to hope to draw the other thing. I think we gotta play this here. Interesting to move into that location. To hope to draw Spectrum on the final turn. Oh, they had Brood. Okay. And then they are gonna try to win this location. So we might be able to battle for Shadowland. It would have been better if I had just played the Colossus into Shadowland. But assuming now that they play Cerebro Mystique, everything gets +4/+4. That's 4 times 8, which is plus 16. Oh, so we lose in the flooded location here too. Cosmo's kind of cute. Oh, Cosmo takes out Mystique, but we don't have priority because we're only winning one location. That stinks. So this one has got to be a retreat. I mean, I'll play it for 1 cube. If they snap, I'll retreat, I suppose. Because if they only have, let's say they have a 2-drop plus Cerebro, they don't win this location. And then maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, they probably win this location too. I guess this beats it. That's my strongest play. Alright, I'll play for 1 cube. I think that that's fine because we beat them if they don't have Mystique. If they have Mystique, then we win. So, just about whether or not my opponent has it, we'll find out in a moment here. Oh, I can hit the end turn button. I was just thinking through all of my plays. It's just going to be a blue Marvel play. That's not going to be enough. Okay, cool. So we found a win there. Wasn't sure how likely we were to be able to do it, but that's kind of what the deck is aiming to do for the most part, though I think typically you'll want the Colossus in a different location and you'll just try to solo a location with the Destroyer instead, but still not a bad showing for the deck. Like I said, definitely learning how to play it still a little bit here. Though I am still learning the deck, I'm also almost done with my quests for the day, so probably only going to play a few more games in this video, but this looks like a pretty nice curve here. We've got Ant-Man into Colossus, into Cosmo. I like it, and we always have the option to take Cosmo and move it to New York on the final location, and then hit that with the Destroyer. So that gives us a lot of play as well, and that's something I will probably make use out of. But we also have Armor as an option, or Professor X down the line, so a lot of different options. Now that they've played the Hood into New York, that does kind of make me just want to Cosmo into New York, but we'll see. And then a Grand Central feels pretty good for this deck. I'm going to play Colossus where I have the Ant-Man, just cuz. Alright, let's see. My opponent's going to play an Angela. That's not giving me too great of hints about what they actually have going on, and now we're going to get a bunch more fun toys to play with. So that's kind of interesting. I do think that I'd like to Cosmo. And then I could maybe Electro next turn. Maybe that's wrong. No, that's probably how to do it. It's about the same either way. I guess Electro this turn gives us slightly more options. I guess they're kind of not the same, because if you Electro, you don't want to Cosmo and protect your Electro. Okay, interesting. So now we've got the option to take Professor X out on the road, and that seems like a really good way to curve out with this deck. You play Professor X, and it's a little bit awkward against the Hood, but even if they play a Carnage to this location, I feel like that's still quite strong. The other thing that we could just do is to Professor X this location where we're already winning, up by 4. Probably a decent chance we would just take this. It does lead to some mind games with Destroyer, though, which is a little bit awkward. So what do we want to do with this Professor? Put it in the location where we're up by 2. This seems good to me, because if they play Carnage, we really get him. But if they play, like, a 1-drop plus Carnage, then we kind of don't get them. Alright, looks like we got their play for this turn. We waste their entire turn by bunking their rescue. So that's really good. And now, I think we play Destroyer in New York, though I do recognize that things are going to get awkward here regardless. Yeah, I don't really think there's a great way around this. Let's just play Destroyer, and then next turn we'll be able to play a few cards, and one of those can be Cosmo, and then we also have, like, Lizard and Colleen Wing just for some nice value per energy there. I think this is a winning play. We've already won on Grand Central. So we just have to win one other location. And I think just battling for the location that my opponent isn't already winning is going to make this the easiest. The goal here is to hope, like, if they really try to overcommit to New York, then maybe we could just get a sneaky Triskelion win. But let's see, what else are they putting in New York? Just a Quake. Okay. So we're up here by 9. Don't need to play Spectrum. It feels like something like Cosmo, Colleen, and then Lizard could be really cool. Because then if they move over, I mean, they probably keep Angela here, right? Move Bishop over, play one big thing here, one small thing here. I probably also should have snapped on one of those previous 2 turns. Just wasn't paying attention because I was doing commentary here. Is the Lizard super likely to win this location? No, but is the Wizard going to be that good for us in New York? Also not really. It's just going to give us +2 here, where like here maybe it beats 0. That seems pretty unlikely too. That they just play 1 card. No, that would mean that they're playing nothing. So I really should just all in to New York. I think that's fair. We're adding 9. This has got to be good enough. We're protected against Shang-Chi as well, so it seems good. Maybe could have snapped, but let's see. Is Cosmo plus 6 other power going to be good enough? Okay, we did protect against Shang-Chi, so there we go. Probably should have snapped once I said that Shang-Chi thing out loud, because I was realizing that my opponent isn't conceding. It's probably what they have. And we were able to play around that and protect our Destroyer. That is definitely one of the cool things of the Destroyer deck too, is Cosmo and Armor, and even the Professor can also help protect you from Shang-Chi shenanigans. And yeah, pretty nice. So I think this will be my final game with this deck to wrap up this video, but let me know, again, what you guys thought of this content, and let me know what decks you want to see me play in Marvel Snap in the future, and happy release day for Marvel Snap. I've been super excited for this game for a little bit now, so I'm excited for everybody else to get their hands on it as well. And I think for this one, we're just going to play a Mojo. I mean, location 2 or 3 doesn't really matter at this stage of the game. I think I'm going to go for it in location 2, though, just because we'll get more information about this location next turn to know if we also want to commit our Ant-Man here. But I was kind of hoping that we played in the same location as our opponent, so that way our Mojo is just more likely to be activating, and now Mojo is even more likely to be activating, and we definitely look strong in this location. So I'm feeling good. I'm just thinking, what else are we doing? I almost kind of want to take this one in a little bit of a wackier direction, where we go Electro, Professor, or Electro potentially Iron Man, but try not to kill the Electro and just make use of an extreme amount of an energy lead. Oh, you know what we can do? Okay, this'll get him. All right, I have the win here. We're going to play Electro and Monster Island. We're going to win Monster Island off the back of Mojo, and my opponent having kind of an awkward hit in there. And then we're going to put Professor X into Superflow, which should just be able to win this location by itself. Spectrum was the best draw in the deck at this point. Now we are super likely to win in Superflow. We can play Iron Man followed by Spectrum into the mirror dimension on the final turn, and that'll lock up the Monster Island, giving us a plus 12 here. I think this is going to be really, really tough for my opponent to beat, even with a rescue, because we already won one location, so we just have to win the Monster Island now. And, okay, another Super Flow. That's going to give us back our cash. And like I said, we are just going to play Iron Man this turn, Spectrum next turn. And that should be basically impossible for my opponent to beat unless they have exactly Enchantress here. But Captain Marvel is not going to do it. That can't win the other Super Flow. So they've bunked this location. And we've already won. So there we go. There is a nice little win there. It's actually a turn 4 win. This game is over. I'm just going to play Spectrum now. I don't think it's going to change anything. Yeah, they're going to retreat right now. So there you go. Pretty good showing for the deck. I did definitely want a game in there too where you don't draw Destroyer every game. You just make some nice things happen with Electro. I knew my opponent wasn't going to play with Superflow, so they could keep activating the Superflow, and those are just the locations where Professor X is really going to shine.